Good morning, folks. Welcome to the FreeAgent webinar this morning, MTD for ITSA delay, keeping your clients on the digital path. I always start in the same fashion, and it's always a relief to see the numbers starting to climb and to know that the participants are in, and we just give everyone a moment just to kind of get settled and kind of get ready for the session this morning. I'm sure a few of you will have watched me on a webinar or two before, but for those of you that haven't, I'm Tony Stevenson, Senior Digital Enablement Manager. I will be our kind of host for the session this morning, and I will introduce our special guests a little later, and myself in a little bit more detail after we have run through this morning's kind of housekeeping. So just a few bits and pieces to make sure that today runs smoothly. So it will be recorded. I know that there will be people that are joining late, leaving early, only caught a bit of it. Those of you that have sort of signed up in the knowledge that you wouldn't be able to make it today, you will get the recorded session emailed out to you following. So just anticipating the question that we always get, which is, will this session be recorded? So there's a chat box and there's also a Q&A box, both of which you should have access to. It's always worth just spending a second just to explain the difference between them. Chat is for you to sort of chat between yourselves. That's absolutely fine. I'll refer you to point 3. If you could keep the chat polite and respectful, that would be wonderful. We have had odd instances of people getting a little upset about some of the content that was being delivered. Not mainly FreeAgent, but we have had that in the past. I liken it to being in the cinema, and you don't shout and scream in the cinema and ruin everybody else's experience. So if we could just keep the chat polite and respectful. If you've got specific questions to ask that you would like definitely to be dealt with by our kind of support flight deck crew today, then please use the Q&A. The reason for that is that what happens is they're all kind of sectioned off so we can deal with them, and then we can perhaps raise them for everybody to see, and then everybody else can see what's going on in the Q&A section. If you just put them in the chat box, they get lost. So yeah, if you could use the Q&A. So for those of you, we've got a mixture on today. So some of you are FreeAgent partners and some of you are new to FreeAgent, which is great. So there will be an opportunity for you to kind of say, yeah, I'm interested in learning a bit more about FreeAgent. There's no obligation, obviously, but so don't worry about kind of follow-ups. And if you are interested in that, you'll get an opportunity to say in the polls, and then we'll make sure we get in touch with you shortly after the session. From a trials perspective, from a polls perspective, we are going to have a couple of insight polls as well today, just to kind of gauge the temperature of the room and see how people are feeling about what we're talking about. And then at the end of the main webinar, which should finish around 12, we will have a short demo of FreeAgent for those that are new to FreeAgent or haven't looked at it for a while and would like to sort of see it in a little bit more detail. My esteemed colleague Sean Kelly will be taking us through that. So if you don't need to see FreeAgent, you don't need to hang around for that bit at the end. But yeah, that's kind of the running procedure for today. The kind of agenda we split broadly into 2 bits. So first off, we'll be hearing from Stewart Hurd, our VP of Sales, around kind of MTD for it's a delay, what it is, what it means, more pointedly, kind of what it means for FreeAgent. That'll be about 10-15 minutes. And then we'll jump into a sort of panel discussion with our panelists today, who we'll introduce a bit later. So for those of you that are just here for CPD purposes, you'll be delighted to know that you have got 1 CPD point. We are CPD accredited now, and you'll get that in the follow-up, and you'll be able to download your certificate and all that kind of stuff, and you'll be able to claim an hour or a point's worth of CPDs, which is nice because we all need to keep on top of our professional development, right? So just a little bit about myself. Tony Stevenson. I am, for my sins, a member of the ICAW and have been for over a decade. So I've now become a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants for England and Wales, much to everyone's surprise. I am the Senior Digital Enablement Manager here at FreeAgent, which means that I get involved in a whole bunch of stuff, kind of thought leadership, and a whole bunch of sort of internal stuff around, how we put FreeAgent out into the market, and and how we make sure that we drive all that kind of stuff forward. And in addition to that, kind of partner ecosystem integration work as well. So a whole bunch of different things. I am backgrounded in the profession. As I said, I'm a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants for England and Wales. I did work for Xero for a couple of years, and I've been at FreeAgent for almost 5 years now, which makes it by comfortably my longest job. So must be doing something right. My co-presenter today is Stewart Hurd. If I could just ask you to introduce yourself briefly, Stewart, before we move over onto your section, that would be great.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Tony. So yeah, my name's Stewart. I'm the VP of Sales at FreeAgent. So I've been at FreeAgent for coming up 8 years. Done a variety of roles, but that whole time has been spent working with our partners in the accounting and bookkeeping space. So unlike Tony, I'm not from an accountancy background, so I'm not going to spend any time today trying to tell you anything about the practice. It's definitely around FreeAgent and how we feel we can help. But the panelists today have obviously got far more insight into that. So I will not step on toes, but I'll definitely keep it FreeAgent focused and open to any questions anyone has.
Brilliant. Thanks, mate. So over to you, I guess. I will drive the slides and Stuart will take us through the next 10, 15 minutes.
Brilliant. Thanks, Tony. So yeah, ultimately where we're going to start today is looking at MTD for ITSA and what does this mean. So as I said a second ago as part of that intro, I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail on the technicalities of the delay, because you'll all have your own sources, you'll all be far closer to the technicalities, I'm sure, than I am, but ultimately the biggest change is the delay itself, which may not be a huge surprise, but MTD for ITSA has been delayed to 2026. But they've also introduced thresholds, so we need to have an awareness of how that's changed the original plan. So the original plan was to capture everybody in moving into that MTD for ITSA submissions, the workflow changes, all of your small business clients. But these thresholds have been introduced now. So in 2026, the threshold is at that 50k turnover point. 2027, we'll stagger it into the 30k turnover point. And then below that 30k turnover point is still to be confirmed. So the thresholds will be reviewed and there'll be some more information we have been promised around what happens for clients underneath that threshold. But ultimately, we have staggered the approach. Regardless of where those thresholds land or what that review is, we have ultimately staggered that approach to the rollout for MTD for ITSA for these clients. And partnerships will no longer be implemented in 2025. So what that means ultimately from a business perspective from FreeAgent and I suppose a client perspective is what we're really here to talk about in my sort of 10, 15 minutes and give you some of that insight. So I'm going to start off by sort of highlighting the 3 points I'm going to talk about. One is the business perspective and what that means for us, because it is a difficult time for all businesses just now. What that means from a strategy perspective, specifically within FreeAgent and working with our accounting and bookkeeping partners, and more poignantly, what does it mean from a product perspective? Because when it comes to HMRC's MTD for ITSA program, it was a lot of work for everybody involved, a lot of segmentation, a lot of investment from yourselves on how to get ready for that. But equally, from a product perspective, it was always a bit of a mandation as well, because we had to be ready by a set deadline and we had to build what ultimately they told us we had to build. So from a product perspective, our hands were really tied and that's left us with some new ideas and gaps that we want to close. So as we move on, Tony, we'll touch on the business side of things first. And ultimately, what opportunity does that bring to FreeAgent and where do we stand? So as I said, it's a difficult marketplace just now for businesses and certainly software vendors are finding it a bit of a roller coaster. But at FreeAgent, we're in a really strong place. So the MTD delay hasn't actually changed our overall business plans. So we've not changed our hiring pathway and we've still got the same areas of the business that we want to grow. So for everybody's knowledge here, that's investing more in our support team. So the support are fantastic at FreeAgent for anyone that's used them or anyone that maybe has comparisons to other support teams. It's very strong, but to be strong, it needs to be staffed correctly. So we're still investing in bringing in more members of the support team, obviously looking at the accountancy practice side of things. It's our sort of main focus as a group. So we're bringing in more within the account manager, BDM and the sort of sales side of things to help with that engagement. And then also obviously looking at how we invest more in the messaging and development side of the business. So it's around about a 10% growth headcount wise. And that was the original plan. So we've not delayed or scaled anything back due to the MTD announcement, which has been really positive for us. In terms of NatWest, for anyone that's maybe not aware, obviously FreeAgent was purchased by NatWest a number of years ago, and our licenses are offered to all their business customers free of charge. So that is something that is continuing. We're still a big part of the NatWest plans. So there's been some really nice collaborative working opportunities in there. So things like removing the need for end users to reconsent bank feeds. We were able to work with NatWest really closely on that, roll that out last year so that you guys could become the nominated parties to reconsent those bank feeds and not rely on your clients to do that. And we can take those learnings, and we've now rolled that out across all the other large banks as well. So we're still a big part of those plans, and nothing's changed. We're looking to deepen the two product offerings. We're looking into lots of really interesting ways on how we can do that and start to have FreeAgent living in the business finance world a little bit more. It has allowed us, though, to refocus on digitisation and efficiency. So I've touched on it before, and I'll touch on it on almost every slide because it is really important and ultimately the biggest change for us as a business is, although we focus on talking about the efficiencies that the software can bring and taking on the digital pathway that all of you are here to learn about today and hear from our panelists on how you can do that with your clients, ultimately the desire and need to build the MTD for ITSA solution meant that we had to give up some of the plans for improving efficiencies for practices or improving some of the digitisation journeys that we have. And ultimately, that's something that we can now refocus on and look to deliver. And that means that all of our partners here, we've got a Platinum Partner event tomorrow in Manchester. We've got one next week in London. We've got all of our roadshows for any of our other partners throughout March, where we can actually go back to being really informed on our product priorities from our partners, as opposed to saying, we hear you, we understand the problem, but we need to build this HMRC MTD ITSA solution first. Like that mandation had to come first. So we're able to turn those priorities on their head, which is a lovely place for us to be as a vendor. For the next slide, Tony, what that means from a strategy perspective, because it's great talking about the business is in a strong position, we're continuing to hire, we're continuing to grow, and we're continuing to invest. But actually, from a strategy perspective, what does that actually mean? So we do have to continue to finalise the MTD for ITSA product, because ultimately that will come to market. And although there's a delay and there's introductions of thresholds, we need to capitalise on that product time that we've invested already. There's hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of time invested in that product. We need to continue to make sure it's ready. And frustratingly, we felt we were ahead and we were in a really, really strong position. So not only had we worked through the submissions and managed to have successful submissions going through, but we'd also been in a position where we were, as far as we're aware, the first vendor to be pulling information back from HMRC and to be bringing some of those calculations back into the software so that the small business and the accountants could start to use that. And that is something that we want to continue to build upon. So it might not be MTD for ITSA related because of that delay, but that functionality is something we've continued to build upon. And it ties in with the increased innovation point. We really feel that we're pushing the boundaries on some of it, but for other areas we can't. So we believe that we're very strong in the banking section. We believe we're very strong in those ITSA submissions piece on pulling that information back. But actually, how can we increase that innovation across other areas of the systems? So can we invest far more in the dashboard for practices to start doing things in a more efficient and bulk manner? Can we start to look at things like the practice insights that we've started to deliver? For anyone that's not seen them in the portal that's a partner of FreeAgents, we start to deliver information back about what your clients are doing, how much time they're potentially spending in the app, some of the activities that we know your clients are doing, but you maybe not have that insight. So by delivering some of this back, how can we increase that innovation further? And there's some really exciting ideas, which I obviously won't divulge today because we need to make sure that they're the right things for us to do, but we can start to sanity check with some of our partners at these events that I've mentioned and really push the boat out on how can we increase that innovation and how can we continue to diversify in the marketplace. I've touched on practice efficiency already, but there's a big focus for us now in our strategy, which didn't exist prior to the delay, which is around practice level efficiency. We believe we've got a very strong product for your clients and the end users to use, and there's a huge amount of efficiency, whether the mobile app, whether it be the workflow, the easy to use system. But actually from a practice perspective, how can we allow you to facilitate more bulk actions? How can we facilitate you to take more of the client's knowledge and understanding and learn from it in one place? Whereas just now, like a lot of softwares, you're jumping from client to client, and we need to improve that for you all. With the partner engagement piece, again, I've touched on it already. but that's really about how can we give our information back to our partners? How can we grow and help assist them? Because just now we have practices that we're speaking with on a day-to-day, weekly, monthly basis, which is fantastic. Their clients are engaging with FreeAgent every single day. How can we close that loop and really advise them on what's going on with their clients? What are their clients potentially struggling with? How can we help them with this digital journey that they're needing to take all of these end users on? And finally, for me, on the strategy part, one of the larger gaps we've had at FreeAgent that we can be really open about is how we continue to develop this ecosystem. So, we've developed a lot of integrations, and we're not going to go like some of the other vendors that have maybe delivered an integration with everything and create a mass integration app store. But we are going to develop a really strong practice ecosystem now to gain that engagement, efficiency, and innovation, because ultimately, FreeAgent's not going to do all of it, it's a part of it. So we need to fit in with your current practice ecosystem and tech stack to give you a true set of efficiencies, which is something that has been a really refreshing view on how we develop and build this ecosystem. So more to come on that, but very strong. And then finally, based on those 3 points, what I wanted to touch on was the product. And we spoke about innovation, we spoke about the fact that we can now ultimately have the opportunity to work with partners and choose what we build next. And I think that is the broad brush takeaway of what this delay means for us as a business. It means we can go back to doing what our customers are asking us to do. It goes back to potentially looking at how we can increase the product fit for new verticals. But we can also look at things that we've maybe not been able to do time-wise. So things like the landlord is a really topical discussion just now, because we invested a lot of time creating a new landlord license. We've built in some property management features, and we've got a long list of features we want to continue to build. Now, this landlord license is only available via accountants and bookkeepers practices. It's only our partners can offer this to clients at the moment. If a landlord comes directly to FreeAgent, they can't do that. But what we have found is we've found a lot of landlords coming to register their interest and register on a waiting list. So, up to over 1,000 landlords are on this waiting list, which is really popular considering we've not actually advertised it. So that means we need to go and facilitate this landlord license in its current world, not in what it would have been with MTD for ITSA. So there's lots of ideas of how we can do that, but also it means that we have to do things and close some product gaps that we've got that were less relevant before the delay. So, a little bit of an announcement, and for anyone that's coming to our Platinum Partner events, you'll get far more detail of this over the next couple of weeks. But, we are looking at the delivery of the property part of self-assessment, so the SA 105s, and how can we bring that in? So not just to the landlord license, because, we have, directors, limited companies, sole traders that have property. So how can we bring that in across the product? So I suppose that ties in a little bit with innovation. It ties in a little bit with our landlord plans, but also it highlights that we have the ability to make decisions based on feedback. So this is something that we're able to deliver out there. It's something that we're hoping to have in play at the tail end of this year, but it's something that has been committed by the business that we can do. Prior to the MTD delay, we wouldn't have been able to look at that. And then I suppose there's smaller other product plans which allow us to bring it in. And internally, we're calling them featurettes. But ultimately, how can we go through that feature request list from all of our partners and start to really tackle some of the product gaps that are a little bit smaller? So it's not about innovation. It's not about opening up new verticals. It's about making the existing product slightly better or more user-friendly, or closing some of those gaps that have started to appear. Because personal frustration, and I suppose I'm a little bit off script, but a personal frustration is that if we have a software vendor that's going out and delivering products and then not enhancing or not evolving that product release that they've got and just moving on to the next one, it's very rare that the first releasing captures everything. So we have to really be making sure we're iterating and building on what we've delivered. So, a really tactical example of that is in the next sort of 2 or 3 weeks, we will have an improvement in our out-of-pocket expenses section and how that works with journals. Because the journal entries and out-of-pocket expenses, we're going to improve how they work together in the app. So again, a tactical piece of work, maybe taking the engineering team about 6 to 8 weeks to do, but we wouldn't have had the time to make those decisions. So ultimately, what it means for FreeAgent from a business strategy and product perspective is we can build what we're being asked to build, and we can build what we believe will have the biggest impact to workflows and efficiencies. as opposed to building what we have to build from a mandation perspective. So it just releases our shackles as well. And then finally, the area I wanted to touch on was just, we're here today to talk about the digital pathway. We've got, as I mentioned before, some phenomenal panelists that can, I suppose, give you examples and insight that I can't, and I'm not going to pretend I can give you when you're working with your clients. But what I can see is, how is the market reacting in a free agent environment? And although the graph only has a small gap there, it's because the numbers are quite significant. But what we're seeing is that the darker green line is 2023 adoption from our practices, and the grey line is the 2022 adoption. So within the initial announcement, within the initial fear that this may be harder to have clients go on that digital journey, the market is responding in a different way, and the market is actually increasing. So we're seeing that we've got that month-on-month, year-on-year increase that is far outstripping any form of mandation that we've had before for adoption. So we're seeing that that growth is continuing at a very positive trend, because the clients are, when the pathway is correct, the messaging is correct, and it's something that the practice is able to act on, adopting the digital journey to fit in more with their lifestyle. So that's the final point from me. I've just over the 50-minute mark, but hopefully you found that stance a little bit, I suppose, insightful into where we are as free agent and what that means for us moving forward. But if there's any questions I have to answer at the end, I'll be around for the Q&A. But Tony, I'll pass back to you.
Thank you very much, mate. It's been a long-held dream of mine to get Stewart on a webinar. So I have, I say mine and Kirsty's, our head of practice marketing as well. So thank you very much for that, mate. That was super insightful, and I'm sure kind of what a lot of people were here to hear. So thanks for that. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to launch a couple of polls, and these are insight polls that will inform our conversation. So if you just bear with me a second. So this one that I'm going to launch, the insight ones. So this has got 2 questions in. So if you could answer both of them, that would be super useful, and we can have a look at the results. So that would be great. While everyone does that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get everybody to introduce themselves. So Richard, as you are first on the graphic, I will ask you to introduce yourself first. That would be super useful. Just a little bit about yourself, your background, and and Gorilla as well would be great for the listeners. You're on mute still, mate. There we go.
Hi everyone, I'm Richard. I work at Gorilla Accounting. My position is operations manager. I'm a ACCA qualified accountant as well. I've worked at Gorilla for almost 7 years now, and since Gorilla started, we've been a partner with FreeAgent.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Marie, if you could introduce yourself. I'm sure you were no surprise that you were going to be next, given that you're next on the slides.
Hi everyone. Yes, my name's Marie Hensfield. I'm an ACCA accountant, and I work at Sherwin Currid. We're a small business focused accountancy firm based in Surrey area. We are a paperless firm, and that's basically been the case since the beginning. We grew up as in the contractor space, and now we're diversified in small business in general. And we've been a free agent partner since the beginning.
Wow, excellent. Thank you very much. And last but not least, Craig.
Thank you, Tony. I'm Craig Hart, Director of Craig Hart Accountancy Services. We're a small business chartered accountancy firm. There's myself and my wife working together, looking after 330 clients. The business started 7 years ago, and yeah, we're a free agent silver partner, and looking forward to achieving the gold partner status very soon.
Excellent, thank you very much. I'm going to apologise to everybody because I've just messed up the poll. So sure that all the team behind her are sitting there with their head in their hands, but I ended it and relaunched it, and I didn't realise that by relaunching it, it would wipe all the results. So if you hadn't already answered, you can still answer. Yeah, I'm deeply sorry to everybody. It'd be really appreciated if you could just go and re-click your answers. It'd be great. It's actually quite interesting. There's sort of 4 options, and I can sort of see the results. So the 4 options essentially are: nothing's really changed, we were already ready, Nothing has changed. I'm continuing with my plans to prepare for MTD. My plans have changed. Digitising is no longer a priority, and my plans have changed. Digitisation is now top priority. The majority, actually, sort of, and consistent with the results the second time around as well, were that about 65% of people saying nothing has changed. I'm continuing with my plans to prepare for MTD, which is kind of great. Maybe I could guess that perhaps the people on this webinar are obviously kind of minded in that way because you've turned up, which is you know, an assumption that you know, wouldn't necessarily be wildly out of kilter. But yeah, it's good to see that that is the bulk of people, and I think it's, Stewart touched on it earlier. It's easy to sort of to forget that, you know, FreeAgent and cloud accounting and digitization has been around for a long time before MTD ITSA arrived, and you know, and actually there's a whole bunch of good reasons why you would do it from a carrot perspective rather than a stick perspective. So I'm going to end this poll now because the numbers have slowed right down, and actually the results are similar to what we were kind of looking at in the previous one. So that's good news. So if I hit share results, then hopefully that should give everyone a little insight into what we're doing. A quick look at that. And then I will launch the next poll, which is about, there we go, hold on a second, I'm going to drop back there, right. So if you are, maybe you've got to disappear off later, or you've loved what you've heard so far, if you would like to find out a little bit more about becoming a FreeAgent partner, then just ping in that poll there. If you're already a partner, then it doesn't matter, you can drop in the last one. But yeah, there'll be more opportunities. So if you're still on the fence and you're like, oh, do you know what, I'd like to hear a little bit more and see the demo at the end, you know, no worries, we'll run this one again so no one will get missed. So the first question, MTD for ITSA delay, how has it affected your practice? So I'm going to go to you, Marie, first. I'm just interested if you could just give us a little bit of an outline and a background on, you know, on the news that dropped just before Christmas, and how it has affected your practice.
Sure. So we were really excited about MTD for ITSA because we felt like it was going to give us an opportunity to grow the business. I think landlords in particular, more than sole trades, tend to attempt their own self-assessment, and the fact that it was going to increase the frequency for a lot of landlords with the threshold being as low as it was meant that seemed like a big opportunity for us to market to landlords. I think the delay and also the change in the thresholds has probably emphasized sole trade as the bigger opportunity now. I think it's still exciting. I think it's it's a shame that it's kicked down the road, and we use that time to do it better when it eventually arrives, and yes, use the time to find some other opportunities as well.
Has it sort of altered what certain individuals with bums on seats have been doing on a day-to-day basis, or has it sort of gone, right, okay, maybe we'll just sort of dial that bit down and dial something else up that you were otherwise concerned with?
Yeah, I think probably the latter, and I think the other thing is that it wasn't going to affect a huge number of our existing client base in the original shape, and I think that the higher thresholds mean that it'll be fewer still. So we hadn't actually done any comms to clients up to that point, but what we were probably doing more of, and we'll continue to do, we just got more time to do it, is just make sure that we were optimized for it when it arrived in terms of process. So we will probably have replacement workflow software in place for it when it later lands.
Cool. Okay. Richard, next.
Yeah, similar for us. We saw it as an opportunity, really. We've always worked with FreeAgent, so that, you know, our clients are used to sort of working on the digital side of things. We've not worked on like spreadsheets or paperwork and all that kind of thing, but I think the changes to the thresholds probably were a good idea, at least, you know, for the start. I think it was a little bit too low. We did the biggest challenge for us was the landlords. So we had a lot of clients that weren't actually clients of ours because they were landlords, so they're either sole traders or limited company directors, shareholders, but they also owned property as well. So we would do the self-assessment. you know, stick all the rental income and expenses on there, and that was the job done. So I think the challenge would be getting those landlords that had never previously done that onto, you know, how we would do that. So yeah, it's a shame because, like I say, we've always been ready for it, but you know, I think the change of the thresholds was one of the things that probably needed to be done.
It's an interesting distinction, the distinction between a landlord and someone with rental income and how they kind of identify. It was something that sort of came out as we were, you know, as we were sort of moving through the gears with the landlord offering, was that there was a particular conversation with one of our team and a partner, and they'd said to them, you know, what about your landlord clients? And they'd said, we don't have any. And they kind of looked quizzically at them and said, but you have people who have rental income on their sole trade, on their self-assessment. And they went, oh yeah, we've got hundreds of those. So that kind of distinction between somebody who sort of self-identifies as a landlord versus someone who doesn't identify as a landlord and just identifies as someone that's got to fill out and kind of semi-irritating box on a form somewhere because they've got a business that they don't really think they should be paying any tax on is an interesting distinction. And I think maybe the movement of the thresholds might have allowed a few of those people to perhaps continue to hold that view closer to themselves than they would have done had the thresholds been 10k rather than, you know, ultimately the sort of 30 that we're aiming at. I guess my personal hope is that they persist and go back to the 10k, or maybe the personal allowance. That sort of felt like a more aligned number than just the arbitrary 10k that kind of was the number. But yeah, interesting. Craig, your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, sure. So very much like Marie and Richard, we are pushing ahead with kind of digitalization anyway. You know, we're very much a kind of paperless office. But I think when you think about it, we're pushing ahead for different reasons. So not necessarily for the benefit of being compliant with making tax digital for ITSA. The benefit of moving to FreeAgent is very much so moving clients from being what I would term a bad client, so someone who sends you information late and incomplete information, to moving clients to being good clients for us. There's a huge benefit in that, and FreeAgent is a massive part of our strategy as a practice. Not only that, it presents a lot of benefit to clients as well, because if you take the example of a landlord, there will be landlords who have the rental income coming in, they don't have an idea about what expenses they have, they don't track those expenses at all. But if you set them up on FreeAgent landlord license, then they can track per property what the profitability is, and it gives them, you know, some figures to say this is what your profit is. You can plan and use that for the future in terms of what their future tax liabilities are. And so a client is almost always aware of what their tax liabilities are, you know, live anytime they want to check. And if they're unsure about that, then they can check in with their accountant and we can very quickly run some numbers, and it's super quick. It's so that's really the reason why we're pushing ahead, not just for the compliance perspective.
So there's a point there that I'd like to touch on, which is not one of our questions, but is, as I promised you, a little segue that always happens in these ones. I'm interested in, and everyone else's thoughts on this as well, is the idea of this. I'm going to rephrase your phraseology, Craig, and I'm going to take the word bad and I'm going to rephrase it to not quite what we would like them to be. But in terms of clients and how we kind of grade their sort of performance in the way that we would like them to behave. So do you have any kind of particular method or system for determining, you know, this is a client is not where we'd like them to be in terms of the way that they operate, beyond simply just they're not on, you know, FreeAgent or a cloud solution or whatever it might be? Do you have any kind of formal system for that at all?
Yeah, so not necessarily a process, other than you choose the clients who are the biggest headache first. And I mean that in the nicest way. clients who, you know, basically send you information close to deadlines despite being chased, don't have the tax liabilities saved and put to one side, and clients who don't pay your fees on time. If you put them onto a free agent license, you can then immediately start talking to them about a monthly fee and a direct debit, so that you know, as a practice, you're changing it from a client where you're getting paid, you know, probably well after you've done the work, to you're getting prepaid for doing the work. So that's another benefit. So I've been working through all of my VAT registered limited company clients first, and then I'll continue to work down basically a list of turnover, which again works for being MTD for ITSA compliant as well.
Interesting. Richard, I'm keen on your thoughts on this one, because I know, Gorilla, you're heavy on systems and repeatability and scalability in your business, right? So do you guys have a kind of method for, if you take on a client and they don't kind of behave how you need them to behave to sort of fit in with the way that you work? Do you have a method for dealing with that situation? You're still on mute, mate.
Yeah, I mean,
Thanks,
we've always used FreeAgent, so we sort of introduced our clients to FreeAgent from the start. So we're quite lucky, I suppose, in that respect, that, you know, all our accountants really just use FreeAgent.
They got no choice.
Yeah, exactly. No, and that's how we sort of advertise ourselves, put ourselves out there. But what we, you know, the one thing we do sort of say to our clients, we'll guide them through it, but it is easy to use. So we find, you know, a part of our introduction would be, here's FreeAgent, we'll show you around the software, get to know it, and, you know, we find that works for our clients. Obviously, you know, not everyone updates everything, but yeah, we try and get in there straight from the start, and, you know, make it clear that that's how we work, and expect for us to work together. You know, keep things updated from your side, and we'll make sure we get everything, you know, done from our side. Yeah,
it's so I've come across a number of practices over the years that have used a couple of different methods for sort of managing this suboptimal client behavior. One of them, which I really liked, was a sort of grading of your clients every year, as sort of like A to D and 1 to 4, depending on their behaviors and yeah, how timely they are, how complete their information is, you know, kind of how well they interact with your staff. You know, do they ringing them up, shouting at them all the time, all this kind of stuff, and they, you know, build out a little matrix, and then kind of as part of the review process, they get graded, and, you know, your staff will know that they need to be able to justify that. They can't just go, oh, you know, they're a D4 because they're a Spurs fan, and your staff are an Arsenal fan, or whatever it might be. And that kind of helps to then go through that process of, right, okay, so, you know, some of these clients have fallen into bad ways, and if you've got a system that's non-negotiable, then that's great, because they kind of can't only go down that route, right? And the other one was particularly with tax return, you know, kind of annual jobs, self-assessment type stuff, was having a premium price for certain dates. So the particular guy I'm thinking of, I think October was their sort of cutoff for the lowest price, and then after that it tiered up every month. By the time you got to January, it was really expensive to get your tax return done. He said, I still have people doing it, I still have people paying the premium price. I'll also have people contacting me in January saying, like, oh, you know, I need my tax return done, my mate Dave down the pub's told me that I need to do one, so I've got to do it. And, you know, and he charges them that premium price, and that has over the years kind of, you know, front loaded a lot of his work. So I'm just conscious of the fact that time wise I need to move on. So in terms of the next sorry, we've done that, that's my slides, sorry. So in terms of the next one, MTD for ITSA, how has it affected your clients? We're going to come to you, Marie, first, because I just missed you out on that last point. However, I think I already know your answer to this one, which is that you hadn't talked to them about it. So it might be a short answer, so my apologies for that. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right, Tony. I mean, there hasn't been any fallout as such. I think we'd still be looking to try and get more sole trades and clients with property onto cloud. They're probably disproportionately on spreadsheets, especially the landlords. And even if we give out a template, it can be interpreted in lots of different ways by clients. So yeah, I think the consistency that FreeAgent would give us, and I think, you know, it's also that allows us to overlay proactive tax advice, because if we can see what's happening through the year, then we're in it's an easier thing for us to then advise, because we can see what they're putting into the records, if it's going in the wrong place, the bank feed's not up to date, things like that. And it also enables us to have quicker turnaround times.
Yeah.
So we can send our request for information really promptly when that compliance period's finished, and get things turned around more quickly, and they're going to have advance notice of what their tax bills are, and just have that better experience as a client.
Yeah. Craig, mate, had you commenced the communication process with your clients around MTD ITSA, and if so, had there been any kind of fallout from, yeah, it's happening, no, it's not, kind of thing, other than delight?
Yeah, so I'd already started to discuss with clients where it would affect them, because I think it's important to do that early, where you've potentially got, you know, maybe 3 times the work that you previously used to do. You've got to really kind of raise that, and the important thing is making sure the clients can expect it. They want to know what they can do to help. So, you know, help reduce your fees, help reduce the burden and the workload. And so it's important to start that conversation early. So I have a number of clients where I'd raised it with them and set their expectations about the deadline, and they've said, well, all right, well, let's just go ahead and do it now. You know, let's push ahead and get it sorted now, rather than being sorted for April 24. It was a case of, right, let's get it set up, let's move on, let's do it. And so they're still in that basket, really. They still want to move ahead and digitalize.
I guess the nice thing about the sort of FreeAgent bank partnership and being able to kind of have FreeAgent for free is that if you had started those conversations with those clients and if they'd look, you know, come onto this platform, you don't then have the kind of the difficult conversation of, oh, I told you to go on this platform and it's now 30, 40, 50 quid a month, but actually you're not obliged now till 2026, and you're going to have to pay that fee for the rest of the time that was there. So the free offering, I guess, helps to mitigate that. We're not hearing, it's quite kind of, we were sort of slightly concerned that there might be a number of firms out there that had kind of gone really far down this road, and then there were people coming back to them saying, well, why has this happened? Because it's a delay, and actually I don't need to do it for another couple of years. So it's really nice to kind of hear that actually being sold on the benefits of being digital, because like we sort of touched on earlier, you know, MTD's really only been around in anger for a couple of years from an ITSA perspective, and actually, you know, there's a whole bunch of reasons why you would digitize and do that as a benefit to your business, regardless of, you know, of HMRC saying you must do this. It was just as helping to drive the laggards in the right direction. Richard, how far down the track were with communicating with your partners were you about this, and what's the fallout been?
Yeah, we were communicating with them. The accountants were having the chats with the clients that they look after. We sent out some general information, keeping our clients up to date with, you know, e-shots and things like that, letting them know what's happening. I don't think, you know, that, I suppose the clients perceive it as an extra thing to do. So I don't think many clients were too upset about the delay, in all honesty. But yeah, I think, like I say, we've tried to be prepared anyway. You know, all our clients are on FreeAgent, so you know, from a digital point of view, you know, they're used to using a digital software and that side of things. So yeah, I think we would have been in a good place, you know. Anyway,
good. That's good to hear. You know, as I said, we're sort of hopeful that was the case, and it was what people were seeing on the ground. And I'm sure that there are firms where that isn't the case, but it's kind of good to hear that the panel haven't had too much. And I guess a lot of it is about how you badge the message, and you know, and where you were at with that process. So skipping ahead, how has this affected your drive towards digitizing your client base? So I think we probably touched on this quite a bit, but I'm interested in perhaps that approach to, okay, so now we don't have to do this in a similar way to kind of how FreeAgent have looked at this, which was, we kind of had this big chunk of work that we've been working on for the last couple of years, and it's been a huge effort across our engineering and product team to get us to a place where we felt that we were comfortably leading the market in terms of our ability to make these filings and be where we needed to be. We'd done everything that we could, and we were just sort of waiting for HMRC to open up more endpoints to the API and give us more detailed instructions as to how things were going to be delivered. That then obviously left us with a kind of bit of a gap, because we'd kind of done what we'd done, and then we've been told, oh, the rest of it's not going to be finished until later, when we kind of budgeted for that time. And that, as Stuart alluded to earlier, has just kind of allowed us to return to innovating and providing kind of new and better solutions to help businesses in this space. So Craig, we went quite deep on this in our pre-call, so I'm going to go to you first around how this has affected your drive towards digitizing your clients, some of the key bits that you're now focusing on, whereas previously it was more about how do we tick these boxes. Now it's more about how do we make sure our businesses are getting the most from these platforms, right?
Yeah, totally. So I think I've got a couple of kind of case studies where clients were paying to use some of the other cloud software. Some of those can be 30, 40, 50 pounds a month, and also paying to bank with their banks as well. So between the two of those, I've kind of had savings for clients moving across to NatWest and FreeAgent combination of like £600 a year. So that makes a huge difference for clients at the bottom end of the income and profitability. To see that on the bottom line is the clients are really happy with that. And those clients who don't send you, weren't like brand new clients basically, who are new to being self-employed, you move them onto the system immediately. They don't know any different. They don't have that old way of working. I just pass my receipts to my accountant. They're immediately digitalized. There's no reluctance from them. This is the way we operate. And so I'm quite lucky that I've got the majority of my client base has been kind of fresh new starters into the self-employment world, fresh new starter landlords, rather than taking clients from other accountants, basically. Yeah.
Okay, that makes good sense. Richard, what have you done with the gaps, basically? How has this affected your drive towards digitizing your client base? And I guess to some extent you're a digital first business, right? Currid is not hugely old, and you've got a lot of them already on the platform. Has it allowed you to kind of go back and perhaps look at some of the adoption of certain features and systems that you can then start to move forward in the gap of this MTD piece?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, most of our clients are, well, pretty much all are digital based anyway. They're on FreeAgent one way or another. The main, as I said before, was the landlord. So we had ones where perhaps they would be a company director, so they'll be using FreeAgent for their limited company, but also personally owning property. So the plan was to move, to have the discussion with them about how we would go about, dealing with that side of things. So that was I think the main challenge for us. Where potentially they would be filing personally for the landlord side of things, as well as for the company as well. So yeah, that was the thing that we were looking into the most. And as I think we were starting off in a good place though, because we already use this software for all our clients, and I think, like I said, we saw it as an opportunity to say, look, we're ready to go, and and get more clients on board on that basis.
Yeah. An interesting. I spoke to a couple of practices recently, and they're in a similar boat to you in the sense that they've got, the majority of their sort of client base was already digitized, and we'll touch on we'll touch on some advice for people who are perhaps a few steps behind you guys on the next question. But one of the things that they pulled out as an opportunity was, okay, so we built a system which was a good system, and it kind of made everybody go down this particular road, which was how we kind of wanted to position our business, which was a digital first accountancy practice, and much easier to do when you're a new practice than it is perhaps when you're trying to shift an older existing client base that have used to working in existing ways, right? But what they then done was gone, right, okay, so we were kind of head on for expansion through this MTD piece, and then now that's gone. So what can we do? So what they were looking at then was going back and saying, right, okay, so let's get some more insight, and you can work with FreeAgent on this to help with diving into these numbers. But like, let's get some insight into some of the features that our clients are using and that our account managers are using. They used it as an opportunity to kind of optimize that. So for example, like bank feeds, I'd always been of the belief that sort of our bank feed adoption would be really, really high, and in certain areas it is. But there are practices that have kind of not adopted bank feeds as the norm, and actually we know from from our data science guys and and our ability to drill into these numbers that actually having a bank feed is a really key point of, we call it, makes the client sticky. So they're more likely to stick with FreeAgent, and probably more likely to stick with with you as an accountant if they've got a bank feed, because that data is then real time. Now I know this is kind of old news, but still surprisingly low bank feed adoption in certain areas. And they've kind of gone, right, okay, so actually there's a really good opportunity there for us to kind of optimize that piece. Same with the mobile app as well. We know that if people use the mobile app, and if they use the mobile app and the bank feed, that makes them X percentage more likely to stick with FreeAgent. So being able to kind of go back and go, do you know what, we built this system and it was great at the time, but actually there's some new stuff that's come in, or there's some new focuses that we can we can look to address. So that was a little nugget that came out recently in a conversation or two that I'd had. So Marie, your thoughts on this question? How's it affected your drive towards digitizing your client base?
Yeah, so I mean, like Gorilla, we are a FreeAgent firm, really. Probably 90% of our clients use the software, and a lot of our clients are coming to us as it's their first time running their own business, and so it's really a perfect fit in terms of the product. We're a fixed fee practice, and there is some price pressure around compliance these days, so it's really important that we have a product that suits our clients, that also doesn't, it means that we're not spending time answering questions about how the product works. And we empower clients, and then we can add the value that we can as qualified accountants, and giving them tax advice, as opposed to trying to help them explain something in the bank feed. It just works. And the other thing that differentiates FreeAgent as well, which is a great thing for us as a business, is the support is actually excellent, and they can speak to a human being if they need to, if it's something that we can't help with and they can't self-serve from the guides online.
We see increasingly this kind of story feedback loop that ever increases gap between us and our competitors. So what we see is the product. So our product has the best we use this marker called Net Promoter Score, or NPS score, for our kind of end users on the market. Ours is the best. It's exceptionally high. And that means that the clients can use FreeAgent easily to support you guys, as you said, there's ever increasing pressures on compliance, and in order to to ease that pressure, you kind of have to work more closely with your clients. And if those clients are getting stuff wrong all the time because the software is hard to use, then that makes that bit kind of difficult. Then we factor in the support piece, right? So our support is phone support, and and we tend to have a pretty low volume of tickets for our for our users, because they find the product that much easier to use, and then when they do have a problem, we're able to help them, and and as such help the accountants as well, and the bookkeepers who are offering this. We've taken another piece of feedback that we hear again and again and again in the market, is that our competitors have moved more towards a slightly harder sell in terms of their relationship, and that transpires into basically a phone call every quarter to say when are you going to add more licenses, which is kind of not really what you'll get from FreeAgent. We're we're a lot more, we have smaller numbers of partners to look after, and and that means that our account managers are able to to work with you more closely, and and dedicate more time, and those kind of different pieces of that puzzle, when you look at the end piece of like, well, how happy is the client, how well supported are we, how good is the product, and and how good is the partnership, we end up kind of miles away from the opposite of that, and that is something that we're really trying to kind of cultivate and foster, is that support piece, and that runs through lots of different areas of of our experience of of using FreeAgent, either as a client of yours or as a as a partner of FreeAgent. So it's good to hear. So we're going to jump on to the final question, and we're actually sort of doing all right for time, not going to run over by too much, which is unusual for me. So present company, you guys are in reality further forward along this digitization process than probably a lot of our partners are in different forms, which is not unsurprising, but you are in the majority. The majority of firms are still working all this stuff out, and they've probably still got what I call Monica's closet, which is a large collection of clients that are still on old systems, and and the digitization piece is probably smaller, and they've probably got more work to do on that, on that digitization kind of pathway. So you guys and girls all come at this from a slightly different angle, because you've got slightly different practices and slightly different backgrounds, but I'm really interested in just your kind of best piece of advice that you would give somebody that was perhaps a few steps further back than you in this process, and and sort of sitting there going, perhaps I'm struggling to persuade my clients this is a good idea, or I'm struggling to adjust the systems internally. I'm going to start with you, Richard. Best piece of advice, or best couple of pieces of advice that you could give to somebody who was, or a practice or a bookkeeping firm who was, perhaps not quite as far down the track as you guys are. Yeah,
I mean, one of the things, we provide the software anyway to our clients, so I think that's a bit one of the things. So if you don't do that, see if you can get that for free with one of the partner banks, RBS or NatWest or the Metal one. Obviously, so it's no extra cost to your client. So I think that's quite a good way to sort of look at moving them over to those ones that are coming to join you. I'd say, the other piece of advice would be, get straight on FreeAgent from the start. Once they're used to using it, and you get them on there, it's pretty user friendly. So I think that's what we've found. We use FreeAgent as part of our onboarding. It's a selling point as well. We've got clients that come to us because they want to use FreeAgent. So I think that's the best thing to do. Get them on the software from the start, and the ones that you've maybe stuck in their ways and used to using spreadsheets or whatever, then look, let them know that it's coming whether they like it or not, and you might as well get used to it, and if possible, at no extra cost for themselves.
Cool. Marie, we'll go to you next. Best advice for a practice who's just not quite as far along as Sherwin Currid is.
Yeah, I think so. We tend to do demos with clients who aren't familiar with the product. So we have that in our partner dashboard, and it's populated with dummy data. And I find that is pretty compelling for people once they see it. They, if you say software and it sort of freaks people out, once they can see that it actually is pretty straightforward, and they're actually going to understand a bit more about how their business or their property portfolio is performing, then it's quite an easy sell at that stage. And the other thing, I suppose, is from a business point of view in terms of our team. So they don't really want to spend their time chasing clients for paperwork and bank statements and things like that. And so having FreeAgent being our product of choice means that those are things that they don't spend their time doing, and they can do much more interesting things and helping the clients get the best out of their business.
Cool. Excellent. Thank you. Craig, over to you, mate. Best advice for someone who's not quite as far down the track as you are.
Yeah, sure. So I think the first thing to say is just have a plan. So I think I've worked in industry and I've worked in practice as well for a couple of different firms, and a lot of accountants don't necessarily have a plan. They just basically take what the client gives them at the end of the year and work with that. You know, it's the clients dictating the terms and of how the working relationship is going to go, what information is passed across. I think once you see the benefit of digitalizing, of using FreeAgent, enabling the bank feed, you should set yourself some targets of like, this is the amount of clients that I want to move across, and then break that down into a weekly target to say I want 1, 2, or 3 clients a week moving across to FreeAgent as a system, and trying to standardize your practice. So that's what I would recommend. I mean, implementation is really key as well. Like Marie said, you've got to really provide a demo to them. So it's a 3-step approach: set up the FreeAgent account, 2, link the bank account, and 3, show them how to raise a sales invoice if that's relevant, and just show them how to enter the bank transactions, and clients will do it for you. We'll literally do it for you. So
I think it's a kind of little known thing about FreeAgent, but you can actually book kind of 20 minutes, half an hour with one of our support team to help your client go through that stuff. So setting up a bank feed, raising an invoice, right? So you can take it on yourself, you're more than welcome to, but you can also lean on FreeAgent to do that as well, which is not something that one-to-one you get with anybody else, I don't think. So that does seem to, those that grab hold of that, does seem to really help. And that initial sort of foray into making sure that they understand the real sort of, we know there are certain things we want your clients to do sort of when they first start using FreeAgent. So raise an invoice, connect the bank feed, explain the bank transaction, take a photo of a receipt. There's sort of 4 or 5 things that we know once they've done that and they've had that experience, suddenly it's like, oh wow, this doesn't feel like accounting. This just feels like an app on my phone, like any other app on my phone that I might use, right? So it feels a lot more kind of a lot less alien and a lot more sort of friendly, which is kind of where we want to get to. So that's great news. So what we are going to do now, I'm going to run another quick poll. So if you are convinced you'd like a little bit more information about FreeAgent, then go for it. We are still going to run the demo, so don't worry about that. If you've already answered, don't worry too much about it. And what we're going to do while that's running is we'll just have a quick look at some of the Q&A stuff. As I said, we're pushed for time, so I'll just have a quick rattle through some of the ones that have been the 30 Q&As that have been answered. So one there was just about, so is it right to say if a business with a turnover of 50k and above, then MTD ITSA will be applicable from 2026? Yeah, that's correct. And then for the following year, it drops to 30 grand. Hi John, we couldn't say these timelines and changes. Yeah, we'll keep you all informed of how this all how this all kind of plays out. Just have a quick look at some of these. I think that's in the wrong place. How does FreeAgent work out? So there's one about sort of landlords and then sort of self-employed income. So if you have landlord income, then you need a landlord license. If you've got self-employed income, you need a self-employed license, and then there'll be some way to bring those two together once we kind of get to that bit. Yeah. So somebody asked, are you pointing landlords on the sort of waiting list towards a FreeAgent partners? So yes, they've been pointed towards a directory and given the option of registering their interest. So yeah, hopefully they should all be filtering through. So if you want to kind of get your stuff updated on the directory, that will help, no doubt. Is FreeAgent only available to NatWest customers or existing ones if they wanted it? So FreeAgent's available to all. You can pay for FreeAgent, and you guys as a cohort get a discount as a accounting and bookkeeping partner. But yeah, if you want to use any of the FreeAgent bank, the NatWest Group banks, then you'll get it for free. If it's Metal Bank, RBS, NatWest, and Ulster Bank. So anyone that hasn't touched on Metal is our sort of challenger bank that sits within the NatWest Group. It's app based. It takes about 20 minutes to set up an account. It's a business account. It's completely free and integrates with FreeAgent sort of deeply, so you can explain things in one, it will pull through to the other, and all that kind of stuff. Same one there about income streams. Sorry folks, just running through any of these if there's any to pull out. will I get the slides? You'll get the video. So yes, you'll get that. I don't think we send these slides out, but we do send the video out. Yeah, there's a lot of questions. Discounts, cool, excellent. If anyone has any questions, sling them in now. Cool, I'm going to end that poll, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say thank you very much. So a bunch of thank yous. So the first thank you that I'm going to say is to our panelists today. Brilliant insight, and thank you very much for giving up your time to help FreeAgent and to help the profession. Much appreciated. We had over 325 people on at the peak, I think, that I saw, which is great. There will be some that started and some that dropped off, so the number of that will be slightly higher. So yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much to Stewart for his webinar debut. Much appreciated, and a real great insight into kind of what's coming for FreeAgent. Thanks to the FreeAgent crew on the flight deck today, Teresa and Sean, for answering questions as we've gone along. Thank you very much to the Georgia and the girls in the background who make all these things happen. It is an enormous amount of work to put these on and make them run smoothly, and I just basically kind of turn up and talk for an hour, which is kind of the easy part, really. So thank you very much to everyone that's been involved in getting this put on. But most of all, thanks for listening. I appreciate that. You know, it's an hour out of your day, and hopefully you all got something from it. For those of you that would like to see a little bit of FreeAgent, then do stick around for the next sort of 10 or 15 minutes. And there'll be one more opportunity at the end to sort of say, yeah, I'd like someone to get in touch. And for those of you that that don't need to see FreeAgent, then you can drop off. That includes panelists. So thank you very much, guys. Have a great day, and I hope we catch up in person soon.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
You're welcome. I'm going to stop sharing, and then we're going to transition to Sean and his demo. So I will stop sharing, and hopefully Sean will be able to. If I just make you co-host, mate, you're on mute still. So there we go. Brilliant. Over to you, Shawnee.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Tony. So, like Tony said, my name is Sean Kelly. I'm part of the practice implementation team. So if you do get in touch, needing more help and support, it'll usually be me or one of my team that'll be taking you through the FreeAgent application, take you through the dashboard, how you can use it for to best support your clients. And that's essentially what I'll be showing you guys today, is just basically a little introductory to how FreeAgent works. So as you can see from my screen, I actually have two views in front of you. I've got my sort of desktop view here, and then on the right hand side, this is actually the mobile app. I'm just going to show you sort of side by side exactly what that looks like, what functionality is mirrored on both applications, and where it can slightly differ as well. If you do have any questions throughout, do still use the chat box, or even just fire them in the Q&A box as well, and I'm sure one of the team will get them. But starting here, you'll see here that we're on the overview page. As you can see on the mobile app, we're also on the overview page, which is very similar. So as you can see there, it's still showing you the invoices, cash flow, operating profit. On the desktop version, it's showing you a more detailed view. You're seeing a lot more information there, but you're still seeing something on the mobile app. So it's just to point out how useful it still is. On the mobile app, you've got this big green button. Inside there, it's like a quick add menu. This is really simple for your clients to add as anything pretty much, an expense, a mileage, invoice, estimate, so on and so forth. It does really make it easy for them to quickly add an invoice into their license on the go. And if you do have those clients that struggle to get onto the desktop version, they've got no excuse. If they've got the mobile app, they can just simply open that up, use that green plus, and then do their day-to-day business. Now, what we're going to do is just a live demo of something called Capture for Later. Now, one of the biggest reasons you'll want to adopt a digital platform such as FreeAgent is that it'll help you with record keeping. It'll have a lot more there for you and your clients to work on going forward. So I'm going to click on Capture for Later on the right-hand side there. And as you'll see there, it's giving me this little message, letting me know what's going to have access to, which I'm going to click Continue to Camera. I'm going to hold it over a receipt on my desk. and you'll see there that it's simply captured that receipt. Now, if I click done, you'll see that it is now saved into the FreeAgent license. What I always suggest is deleting this file name that's just going to use today's date. And then I suggest taking the date from the receipt, which is the 9th of the 11th. And then following that with the vendor's name, which in this situation is Tesco. So there we go. Once you click Save to Files, that's it saved to that FreeAgent license. So your client has just simply uploaded a receipt and saved it to their license. This is the same account on the left-hand side on the desktop version. If I now click onto the company name at the top right and go to Files, you'll see there that that receipt I've just uploaded is instantaneously being uploaded to the desktop version as well. And again, that's just the benefit of cloud accounting. You do something on the mobile app and it's going to automatically reflect on the desktop version, giving you guys more information straight away. Now, the benefit of that capture for later function is that you can instantly turn that receipt that's been captured into an expense. Now, on the desktop version, I'm going to simply click this down arrow, and you'll see there that I get the option to convert it to a new expense. And as you'll see there, that as well as capturing the data via the image, it's also been able to auto-extract some of the details from that receipt. So you'll see there it's filled in the date for me, and it's also filled in the total value of the receipt as well. At this point, I just need to make sure I select the correct VAT treatment and select the correct nominal category, and then select Create New Expense. Once I select the rest of the data entry points, such as who was the expense for, what was the currency, if it is multi-currency. But again, once that's all entered, I click Create New Expense, and FreeAgent will add that into the expenses section of the license, like so. If I click My Money, Expenses, you'll see there that that receipt has been attached and the expense has been created on the back of that. So again, it's just how useful the mobile app can be used with your clients, especially the ones that don't add receipts all the time. That will just save you a lot of time. Coming into the banking section, you'll see here that you've got a list of accounts. Now, if we follow this process on the mobile version as well, by clicking the banking tab at the bottom there, you'll see there at the bottom of the list on the mobile page, we get the option to connect bank accounts. So if you do have tech-savvy clients that are logged into their business bank account on the mobile app, as well as being logged into the FreeAgent app, they can simply connect a bank account via the mobile app by being switched between the two apps, meaning they don't actually have to enter any login credentials. It's going to scan their Face ID or their fingerprint scan, and that will just simply connect the bank account for them. It's the exact same for the reconsent process, which happens every 90 days. Again, on the mobile app, it's just giving them the extra flexibility to do it on the go. But what we're going to do is come into the bank account on the desktop version as well as the mobile version. And you'll see there that the views are very similar. Using the three dots on the mobile version at the top right, it gives you the option to explain transactions in bulk, remove transactions in bulk. So again, giving you that flexibility to handle transactions in bulk on the go. So again, you're not limited when you're on the mobile app still. Again, desktop version, by dealing with transactions in bulk, we're simply using the tick box on the left, and that will give us the option on the right here to explain transactions in bulk. When you're dealing with transactions in bulk, you can deal with them in bulk by explaining them to different profit and loss codes, money paid to user transactions, so that's your dividends, your salary payments, direct or loan transactions, transfers to internal bank accounts within the business. Again, they can be handled in bulk, and so can VAT rates, as you can see here. So you can reclassify a complete sort of description of transactions within the banking section by using that bulk tool. So again, it's going to save you guys time, as well as you're giving your clients the ability to do it themselves as well. But again, right down to basics, you'll see here we've got red transactions. That's just simply an unexplained transaction. FreeAgent has no idea what that transaction is or what it's for. What you or the client would need to do is click onto the writing and then get into the nitty-gritty and explain the transaction by selecting the type of transaction and then the subsequent category or reason, depending on what type of transaction it is. But yes, that is how you would explain bank transactions. Similar on the mobile, you would simply click onto a red transaction, which would then open up an option for you to explain it. And that is doing one by one instead of using the 3 dots at the top right to bulk explain. So that is how you would handle that. You may have clients that aren't on open banking, and for those clients, you will be able to upload bank statements by using this upload statement option at the top here. So inside here, you'll see that we do support some electronic file formats for bank statements. However, we do have a very easy CSV format you can create yourself. That's just an easy Excel document saved in the comma separated values format. It's got 3 columns, date, value, description. Again, it's very easy to put together, so you don't even need to have the necessary format. You can just simply copy and paste information into an Excel document and upload those transactions as well. So again, getting those transactions into the client's account is easier for the bank feed, but it's not the only way. So hopefully that's giving you guys a taste of the FreeAgent license, showing you how best to use it so far. And obviously, if you're already a partner, you'll know a lot of this already. But if you're not a partner, get in touch and we can get you guys trained up as best as we can.
Thank you very much, mate. I absolutely love the way that you show the mobile app next to the main product as well. Like, really good. So hopefully, folks, that was for those of you that aren't FreeAgent partners, that was useful for you. So I'm just going to run one final poll while everybody kind of says goodbye and drops off. So if we want to launch that. So it's the final poll just to say, yeah, I'd like to speak to FreeAgent. If you said yes already, don't worry about it too much. But if you want to, you've made your final decision and now you've decided, having seen what Sean's just done, that you're really interested in speaking to us, we can get somebody to get in touch with you. It's very easy to watch one of these things, think, oh, that's great. And then kind of just, 6 months goes by and you're like, oh, I really meant to speak to somebody about that. And actually I never did. So thanks, Sean. Thanks everybody for for your attendance and for those 125 of you that carried on right through to the death. So I will just let this poll run for a minute while everybody just kind of dashes back to the laptop and says, yeah, I'd like to do that before we drop off. So thank you very much. And that's it for today.